Hi, this is Bonnie Barker with BonnieBabeCrochet.com, and this is a continuing series on teaching crocheters how to knit using the Continental style of knitting. Okay, for this project, for this cowl, this chunky cowl, I'm going to be using one of these Caron chunky cakes. It's a size, actually a 6. It's super bulky, and the information on the side, it is 100% acrylic. And this is approximately 297 yards. And for the knitting, I'm going to recommend size 11 or 8.0 millimeters. Now I'm going to be using, and you're going to need a circular needle, which is the wire. Let me show you. It's a wire that is attached to a set of knitting needles here. I'm going to be using, like I said, size 11, which is 8.0 millimeter, and I'm also going to use size 13, which is 9.00 millimeters. Both of these have a they are 24 inches long when including the measurement of the wire. When you measure knitting needles that are circular, they're measured from tip to tip with the wire in between, and both of these are approximately 24 inches long. So in the past I'd said that you didn't need a circular, you could be straight or circular, but for this you're going to need a circular because we're going to be knitting around again and again and again, like one big spiral. So let's go ahead and let me show you one other thing. We're going to need a pair of scissors, and it's always nice to have a yarn needle for hiding those loose ends and things like that. And it's also helpful to have a measuring tape. I would recommend, if you really want this cowl to come out like the one in the picture, that you make a small swatch with using approximately 24 cast-ons, and just to get a measurement to make sure that your gauge is what I'm getting. For the gauge, I believe it was 3 stitches per inch and 3 rows per inch. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, as we get ready to do the cast on, I want you to pull off approximately 2.5 yards of material. This will be for the long tail because we're going to be casting on about 84 stitches. So go ahead and make your slip knot. Give it a tug. And get the smaller. This is the size 11 or 8.0 millimeter. Okay, go ahead and do that. Now remember, the yarn hold is going towards your yarn supply, and the thumb, I'll go ahead over this again. For the Continental hold, it's the same as you hold yarn for your crocheting. Okay, we have this finger kind of pulls the yarn up for us. You're going to have Tall Man and Thumbkin holding on to that other knitting needle once you get started, and the brake man or the pinky is going to help control the tension. Now as we do the cast on, remember this goes over the thumb, and then reach down and grab both of the strings like this, so your hand is kind of like this. Okay, and then we're going to cast on like this. Now we started out with 1 already, so we're at 2, 3, up under, over, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now let me show you something. You see how this yarn is starting to untwist a little bit? You may want to just sometimes let that fall out so that it can twist back. 8. Because that was 9 and this is 10. I'm going to go ahead and do this until I have 84 of these. And as they crowd up here, they can easily, slip off onto this needle, and they will be fine, I promise you. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish that until you get 84 loops or cast-ons. Okay, now that we've got all 84 stitches cast on, we want to make sure that it's not twisted. So I'm going to make sure that it's all, I'll show you what I'm doing here. It can tend to get a little twisted, so you want to make sure it's all going the same direction. All right, now we're going to spread this out just a little bit here. And bring some of this. Okay, this will kind of like a big spring. Bring it over this needle. Okay, now it's going to be a little bit scary, but what I want you to do so that this is even, because what we're going to do is actually knit in a big spiral, and if we do that we can have a little bit of bulkiness at the bottom unless you do what I'm about to show you. I want you to very carefully slip, let's see if I can do this carefully, slip one stitch off here and do the same over here. I'm going to slip just one stitch off. And we're going to trade places with these. Okay, we're going to put that one over here, and we're going to put this stitch over here on this side. So, and just to mark where we are, I'm going to use a stitch marker and just put it right there, and that should work fine. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to start by, we're actually going to do an alternate, we're going to alternate between purl and knit. So we're going to always start with 2 knit stitches, and then we're going to go to 2 purl stitches. Okay, remember the knit, you put behind, the needle behind, yarn over, oops, yarn over, and pull up a loop. That first one's a little tight because we did the little switcheroo on it. And then do another one. Okay, all right. So those are a little tight there. So did those 2. Now we're going to do 2 purl. This is going to give us a nice ribbing. That's 1, 2. And then we're going to alternate that all the way around until we get to our stitch marker again. We're going to knit 2. It's 1, 2, and then bring the yarn forward. Remember, it goes in front of both needles. And we're going to purl 2. 1, 2. Okay. I'll pull up some yarn. Knit 2. 1. And the first row actually is just probably the most challenging. And once you get this established, it goes much easier. And then purl 2. 1, 2. Oops, that one almost slipped off the needle there. Okay, so let's go ahead and push that around. I'm going to do 2 more for you, and then I'll finish this. Knit 2. 1, 2, and then purl 2. Remember, bring the yarn in front and come in front with that needle. Put your finger down to wrap that needle. And 2. Okay, so go ahead and do that all the way around. Knit 2 and purl 2, and then I'll show you what to do after that. Just for review, I know as you go around you may forget, gee, what did I do? Did I just do the knit or do the purl? Let me show you how you can tell. When you see these little circles like this, these are the knit stitches. When you see the little bump in front like this, these are the purls. These are the knit, these are the purls. And you may want to work out a system like always end when you end your crochet. A friend of mine told me always end with a knit stitch, okay, so that you know where you are. But even if you don't do that, you can tell that these were both purls that I did last. So that means the next 2 stitches that I'm going to do are going to be the knit stitch. So I knit by putting those sticks in the back, or the knitting needle in the back. Okay, so go ahead and finish working all the way around, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, as I work around, I'm getting closer to my stitch marker. Okay, I see I did 2 purls there, so it's time to do 2 knits. 1, 2, and then 2 more purls. 1 and 2. Okay, and then brings me to my stitch marker, so I can take that off. Okay, so we've gone around 1 time. So now what do? Make sure we keep that from being twisted here. And so now, if you want, you can leave your stitch marker there, as you go around each time, so that you know the rows. So now it's time to just continue what we've already done. Okay, so we ended with 2 purls, so now we're just gonna continue working around, and we're gonna do this for 7 more rounds. Okay, so you should have a total of 8 rounds when we finish this section. So we're gonna just continue doing 2 knit stitches and then 2 purl stitches all the way around. So go ahead and do that for 7 more rows, and I'm gonna stop after a couple stitches here. Let me show you how it starts to look. It's still kind of early to see this, but you can see the 2 purls, and you can see the knit section starting to look more like the top of crochet stitches, like a chain stitch. Okay, so keep on doing that, and I'm going to do maybe 2 more rounds, and then I'll show you what I have. So just continue around and around as you go. Okay, after completing about 4 rows, or rounds I should say, I wanted to show you what I have. And it's kind of hard to see with 1 row, but after you get 3 to 4 rows, you can easily see the knit side and the purl side. Okay, or see where you have the 2 knits and then the 2 purls. And this just makes a lovely, lovely ribbing. And it's just so much fun as a crocheter to see this come together. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing this until I have 8 rounds. So I'm going to go ahead, and let me show you, you can count by counting what looks like the top of a stitch here, or the chains. 1, 2, 3, 4 are complete. So I'm going to do 4 more, then I'll show you what to do after that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish 4 more rows till I have 8. Okay, now that I've completed 8 rounds, I wanted to show you what we have. And I have to tell you, I'm really loving the way this color is coming into play here with this yarn. Okay, let me show you also how to count when you've come to 8 rounds. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's just like counting the top of a crochet stitch with this chain with the 2 V's appearing. Okay, now remember early on we had our stitch marker, and this is where the stitch marker was. I'm just going to take it off because for this round we will add it after we switch our knitting needles. We're going to be switching to the 13 or the 9.00 millimeter, and this is what we're going to do in order to do this. We are simply going to drop this other needle we were using. It's already where our work is already on, and we're just going to knit off using the larger needle. Okay, and remember that we're just going to do straight knit. Before we've been doing knit 2 and then purl 2. We are just going to knit all the way around. We're going to be doing this for a long time through most of the cowl part. So we just go around and we knit each one of these off onto the new size needle. Okay, now here are the last 2 stitches that I'm working off. 1, 2. Now I wanted to show you this set of needles is no longer in service, so I'm going to go ahead and get those out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch marker back on just to show me that that's the beginning of each round. And now my work is all on these other needles, but let me show you something. Notice that this particular set is really too big for what I'm doing, but that's not really a bad thing, because sometimes you just don't have the money to go out and buy the perfect set for every project. So let me show you what you can do. I'm going to actually pull the wire out right about midway. I'm going to pull the wire out and just I'm twisting the loop like this, and this automatically makes my set of needles very usable again. You see? So this wire, I know it's a black on black here, but I just twisted the wire, and it's not going to hurt the stitches at all. And so now, by doing so, I can just continue my knitting. So what I want you to do is I want you to continue knitting in the round, just using the knit stitch until the portion from here, from the bottom to the part where you end, is approximately 8 inches. Okay, I am going to make this cowl approximately 10.5 inches tall. Now, if you want to make yours 12 inches tall, or long, whatever, then what you want to do is you want to just do the knit part a little more. Okay, if that makes any sense. So let's say if you want to make this 12 inches, you've already got approximately 2.5 inches here with this ribbing. So you'd have 10 inches minus 2.5, that would give you 7.5. So you would knit 7.5 more until this section equals, let's see, if you want it to be 12 inches, you'd want it to be 9.5 inches. I'm sorry. So you would do this until it's 9.5 if you want the longer 12 inch. I'm going to shoot for about 10 to 10.5 inches. So I'm going to work these stitches until the length is 8 inches. So go ahead and do that. And as you go around, and if you happen to have an extra long cord like I showed you, you can just keep adjusting that. You get to about the halfway point, or when you crochet, listen to me, I'm using the word crochet too much, knit to this point, then you can always pull out the wire on another side and just pull it out, give it a little twist so that you have room to work. Okay, we'll go ahead and do those till this is 8 inches or 9.5, depending on what you want to do, and I'll show you where to go from there. Okay, after playing around with this and doing the knit stitch all the way around, I decided to make my cowl a little bit longer than I initially said. I went ahead and I knit until from the bottom ribbing all the way to the last stitch is approximately 10.5 inches. So when I finish this, I'm going to add, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add more of the ribbing just like we did, but I am not going to change to the smaller knitting needles. I'm going to leave the larger knitting needles in, and this is my reasoning for it. I want the top of the cowl to be smaller and the bottom to be larger. So by keeping the larger size 13 knitting needles in, I'm going to be able to accomplish that. Okay, so by the time I finish this should be, 10, 11, 12, should be approximately 13 inches from the top to the bottom of the cowl. Now this cowl is very flexible as far as how big you want it. If you don't want yours to be 13.5 inches or 13 inches, you don't have to make yours as long as mine, or you could even make it longer. So I just want to leave the flexibility up to you. There is plenty of yarn on this scan, let me show you. I still have this much yarn left, so there's plenty of space to adjust the length of the cowl to whatever you desire. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the ribbing again. I also wanted to say one thing about the stitch marker. Okay, you can use a stitch marker just like that so that you know where you are with the new rounds. But honestly, since I know that the beginning was right here, it's very easy, right? Let me show you right here. It's very easy on this project to just follow the line up to know where the row ends, okay? Or where the round ends, rather. But if you want, you can just leave the stitch marker on this knitting needle as you go round and round, and it's a nice, very nice reminder. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to just do what we did to start. We are going to knit 2. Remember, the knit is putting the needle in the back, yarn around the front, pull it through, and off the needle. Okay, I'm going to push these down a little bit further. Okay, and for the purl, now that we do purl, we put the yarn in the front, needle in the front, and I like to put my finger down like this because it wraps the needle very easily. Pull it through and off. Do 2 of those. Okay, and then 2, knit, going to the back. And then 2, bring the yarn to the front, 2, purl. Make sure that yarn stays in the front for those purls. Okay, and then we're just going to do that all the way around for 8 rounds. Okay, and make sure that when you come to the rounds that follow this, that you're going to be putting purls where you see the purls, and you're going to be doing the knits where you see the knit. Okay, so hopefully you're able to see that, you know, pretty clearly at this point. We'll go ahead and do this for 8 more rounds, and then I will show you how to bind off. Okay, I've just completed 8 rounds, and I find myself in a bit of a dilemma. I am using this self-striping yarn, and I'm not real thrilled with the way this is going to end. So I'm going to make a decision, and I just encourage you, if you're using the self-striping yarn, feel free to adjust the length here. It's not going to hurt this design one bit if I just do 2 more rounds. So in order to keep the color, you know, give it a little bit more color here of the light blue, which is the same as what I started with here, I'm just going to do 2 more rounds to make it a total of 10 rounds of the knit 2, purl 2 pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more rounds, and then I'm going to show you how to bind off. Okay, after completing 2 more rounds, I now have a total of 10 of the ribbing rounds, which would be the knit 2, purl 2, and I'm going to go ahead and remove my stitch marker because I'm not going to need it any longer because I'm going to be binding off as we go around. Okay, so let me show you the first step in binding off, and this is really not too difficult at all. There are probably more than one ways of doing this, but I'm just going to show you one way for now. Okay, so the way we do this is we're going to go ahead and knit the first 2 stitches. 1, 2. Now I'm going to take my needle in my non-dominant hand, and I'm going to pull 1 loop, hold that loop back, pull it over just like that. So now we have 1 stitch bound off. Now we go ahead and knit the next stitch, slide it off, and pull this loop over that one. You can see I'm still a beginner in of sorts, and this is not the easiest thing to do, but you can go ahead and knit the next one, and with practice it does come a little easier. Make sure you get the entire loop. I'm going to hold that back. Let's try that again. And hold that strand back and pull it over. It's really It's like doing a chain or a slip stitch. In fact, if you wanted to use your crochet hook to do this, you can. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and knit the next one off and then lift the loop over like so. Okay, so just go ahead and do that all the way around. So go ahead and do that, and when you get to the last stitch, I'll show you what to do. Okay, after having worked all the way around, I just have 2 stitches to go. So I'm going to go ahead and knit these and bind these off, and the last one, and bind it off like so. Okay, so what do we do now? Now the knitting needles are clear of our work. So the next thing we're going to do, this is pretty much like crochet patterns. We're simply going to cut the strand, and we are going to pull it through like this. And now we're going to hide this strand. Go ahead and get your needle, like a yarn needle or a darning needle. Okay, and I'm going to do this with the back side showing. I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to go ahead and bring it down into the stitches here. Now I'm going to be very careful on this too, because you see the way I wound that around those stitches, so it should not show. Okay, now I don't want to wind it into these other colors, because that can show, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. Let's try that again. Just a little bit here. And just gently give that a tug. And you know what? I'm gonna go down a little bit further with this. I'm gonna go through this spot, and I'm gonna go down again, because I just don't want it to be cut so close to the edge. So I'm gonna do that. Hopefully that won't be too bulky. And then very carefully give it a clip. Make sure you're not cutting your stitches. That would be a very painful thing to do. Okay, and so we are done with the binding off. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, it's very much like working a slip stitch at the bottom of your work. And we have one more strand to hide here, so I'm going to hide that in just a minute. But here is the cowl. Remember, the tighter portion would be up towards the top, and the wider towards the bottom. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this project. Following this, I have another video coming that will show you how to make a hat with a pom-pom to match this. Okay, God bless. Bye-bye.